This Destiny 2 content creator with over 137,000 subscribers talks about why he quit. And they're an OG. They've been around for a long time. I recently looked at their channel from this video trending, and they've been around for quite a while. I mean, here I guess they're saying, I'm done with Destiny 2 in, it looks like year 1 during the Curse of Osiris era. But they've been covering a lot of Destiny content over the years, and they've amassed a massive audience. And I think they haven't even posted recently for like the last maybe 3 years though. Yeah, like 3 years ago, they did the Witch Queen explained, and then they just fucking vanished. No final shape content. Damn. All right, let's see why they quit, why they left, and their vision for the franchise's future. All right, it's always good to get some insight from the OGs, from people that have been around since the beginning. And I find it fascinating when people have such a massive audience and then leave.
Right off the bat, I want to get this out of the way. No, your eyes do not deceive you. I am back. After 3 years without uploading, I have returned to you.
What's that? What is that reference? The Dune reference? Misa al-Ghalib! What does he say? I need to get this quote right. Ghalib. What does he say? Just say the word. Stop with the music. Every clip. Just say the fucking word.
Listen, al-Ghalib!
Lisan al-Ghalib. I can't, dude. This is so good.
3 years without uploading, I have returned to YouTube, and we're picking up right where we left off, being depressed about Destiny. For those of you who are interested...
This is the cycle. It has come full circle, okay? You play Destiny, you love it, you then begin to hate Destiny, then you leave, then you come back. The cycle continues.
I'll explain where I've been, but we'll do so in the comments because 1, I feel like this video is already going to be very long, and 2, I imagine not everyone watching this cares or really knows anything about this channel. Crisis within the Destiny community is admittedly not uncommon. However, there is genuine reason for concern.
The crisis is not only not uncommon, it has become a pattern for us, okay? This is the emotional roller coaster of being a Destiny 2 player. Right? Game launches, this isn't even including Destiny 1. Unfortunately, we don't have those stats. I can only assume that it's the same graph, but different colors and different bullshit, right? When you look at all the different population. We are so back. It is so over. We are so back. It's so over. We are so back. It's so, this is, you know, Bungie has systematically turned us into a community of manic gamers with the highs and the lows of this franchise.
Player counts are reaching all-time lows, leadership is changing, Destiny creators are quitting or taking breaks from the game left and right, and I'm back making videos. Truly.
During the midst of this, Timbo comes back. The hero, not that we wanted, but the one that we needed.
Truly unprecedented times we are living in today. I have played every single piece of major Destiny content since the beginning. Destiny Vanilla, all the way to the final shape. However, this year I decided to not play Edge of Fate, and have no plans returning unless certain things change. The last time I played
All right, he's got a list of demands. Let's hear it.
Destiny 2 was on February 5th, which I think is the longest break I've ever taken from the game. I had to break that streak to get some gameplay for this video, which hurt a little bit, to be honest. I haven't felt this way since I broke a snap streak in high school. Anyway, before I get into my list...
It's like a drug addict relapsing.
I want to preface it with a few things. My intent is not to drag Destiny and Bungie through the mud for however long this video is. The parentheses in the title are the most important part. I want Destiny to be the best it can be. So while there will be plenty of criticism in this video, said criticism will be paired with solutions. I don't want to just complain about what's wrong, I want to outline a path to make things right. Also, when you take into account...
What? Not just rage bait? This guy.
Real-world game development pipelines and Bungie's current situation, much of this is probably a stretch, unfortunately. I don't think my suggestions are impossible, just unlikely to actually happen given the circumstances. But from a fan's perspective, this is how you turn the ship around. This is what would bring me back to Destiny 2. So how would I, a random person on YouTube that hasn't uploaded in years, fix Destiny? I've broken this down into 4 categories or sections. These are really in no particular order, but the first is putting the content...
Step 1, Destiny 3. Done. Ship it.
Vault into the content vault. Destiny's content vault remains one of the most consequential decisions in the franchise's history. From what I recall, the intent behind the content vault was a lighter client a simpler director screen, faster, more streamlined iteration. That all sounds nice, but in my experience, if you ask any Destiny player about the content vault, regardless of how much they've played the game, they don't like it. It has completely fragmented the experience. New players are presented with an onboarding experience that has amputated the story and universe they're supposed to care about. Returning players have had hours of content they paid for removed from the experience, now unplayable to them. There's so much FOMO and time gating injected into this game that even as someone that's invested like myself, if I take some time off, it feels like when I come back, the bridge between then and now was deleted while I was away. This has gotten so bad that Bungie themselves have literally had to rely on content creators archiving their game on YouTube to defend themselves in court. Now, there have been some attempts to remedy this in the past, but they haven't quite hit the mark in my opinion. What I want to see is a dedicated, permanent Light and Darkness Saga archive within Destiny 2. How would this work?
That would be incredible.
Generally speaking, I think it would be great if there was a place in the director where you click on the Light and Darkness Saga or whatever you want to call it. That opens a separate menu where you can pick a campaign, a mission from said campaign, and you're in. No timers, no FOMO, just the way the story was meant to be seen. I understand it cannot be a one-to-one recreation, and it doesn't need to be. Make it like a museum, not a full restoration, just an instance curated archive of each campaign with a bit of context so it flows together well enough. Some people may say this isn't worth doing just for nostalgia, and I would agree. Except I don't think this is for nostalgia. Players need an onboarding ramp. A player who understands the world they're in is much more likely to stick around. It also gives returning players a runway back and honors their purchases. It makes the entire experience feel more coherent because every player now shares the same context. People that upkeep wiki pages and make Destiny story recaps make valuable content. But if your game requires that to be the means by which your players experience the story, that is a problem. Keeping things modular is going to be really important here. Convert Destiny 2 into a small evergreen base install, include the current destinations, live service bits, Crucible maps, Vanguard ops.
This would be incredible. This is something I've advocated for a lot, which is for Bungie to win back the good faith of the community is to just create an expansion that's just called like the unvaulting or whatever, right? Something where everything that was vaulted is returned so that way people are able to play it. You win back the good faith of the community, which is what you need more than anything. And then from there, you can begin to move forward. I don't know that you ever fully get to recover and move on to the next thing with the franchise without something like that happening. And even though we're at a low point with Edge of Fate, regardless of some of these factors, it definitely is like this open wound that never properly gets fixed, especially as we recycle some of the old content here and there sparingly back into the game. It also becomes problematic. It's something that definitely needs to be addressed. I know it's like, it sounds like such a hard thing to do, or maybe that would cost them so much more money than what they could afford, but it's almost just like a do or die type of thing. You either do it and then potentially you're going to burn a lot of money in the process, sure. And you either do it and potentially win back the good faith of gamers and the gaming community that plays Destiny, or you don't do it and you just continue to run this vicious cycle with the community, and the community sentiment just gets worse and more sour with time.
Maybe even Gambit. Then put all the major expansions in boxes so you can just toggle them on and off with the install. If you want to replay the Witch Queen campaign, download that package, play the campaign with a simple, clean mission select, and that's it. When you're done, you can remove it to save storage space. Now, this wouldn't come without restraints. Over the years, vendors have relocated, economies were overhauled, mechanics added and removed. That's again why I think keeping it to just the instanced campaign missions, sort of like they've already done, just include the entire thing, would be enough for most people. If you can do more than that, great. Now,
I mean, you could even do something like a curated mission where you load in with a predetermined loadout. You're just doing it for the onboarding experience, right? Like they're meant to give you weapons potentially that impress you. Like imagine you're a new player and you load in with, your blue weapons and all, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But imagine they give you like a really crazy arsenal, like you load in with the Galhorn, or you load in with some crazy raid exotic. That could be even more fun as you go through these narratives. And of course, you would not get to keep them afterwards, but you would get to use them so that way you could experience those narratives with these sort of predetermined loadouts. There's a lot of different ways you could do it. Obviously, the currencies you pick up along the way could be problematic. There's a bunch of hurdles you'd have to jump through, but it is a necessity, really, if you want to win back the good sentiment from the community.
This is not something I see as being easy to do. Given what we know about the Red War campaign, it would be a massive undertaking, requiring money and time Bungie may not have, or at least may not want to invest in something like this. But being honest, as players, those problems aren't our problem. And you can make a very strong argument the only reason why this would be a massive undertaking is because Bungie has allowed things to get this bad in the first place.
I agree strongly.
The longer you leave the foundation alone, the more it erodes and the more work would be required to fix it. If Bungie wants to be serious about Destiny's future, they need to stabilize its past. Replace the scavenger hunt you've been building for players with an actual front door. Do this and I think it will improve player acquisition, retention, and goodwill. The next thing I want to address briefly is the Crucible. Remember when PvP was like a pillar of this franchise? Remember when Destiny 2 Vanilla came out and people were upset about how much the game seemed to be balanced around being a competitive shooter? I don't bring that up to say I don't enjoy the chaotic, super powerful fantasy available now, but to point out how much Bungie has repositioned prioritization towards the PvE experience. The Crucible is a maintenance item within this game, and that outcome has come with a cost. For one thing, it's at odds with the expectations of players who followed Bungie from Halo, or simply liked Destiny more as a PvP game. Those players had their primary mode become an afterthought, with content scarcity, erratic balance, and really long update cycles. We've known for a while now that talent was reallocated from Destiny to Marathon, which, regardless of the optics on that game, only compounded this perception. There needs to be a reinvestment in Destiny's Crucible. I'm talking about new maps on a regular cadence, rotate experimental modes, refresh rewards, make it a headline feature again. Give me something to strive for in PvP again. Trials of Osiris used to feel like an event. Iron Banner used to feel rewarding. You need to invigorate some new life in there. Give us Destiny's version of Forge from Halo or something. Custom games that are more than just a private match. Destiny has so many abilities and exotic...
This is a good point as well. And something that goes along with this is that people have been starving for some new maps inside PvP, some good maps especially, and Bungie really seems to struggle to deliver on even just like the most simple fundamental level. Like even if you're not going to invent a bunch of new Crucible modes year after year, things like that, it feels like they're just not even trying to do the maintenance part of it, or the tiniest bit, which is just new maps. Like regularly bringing out new maps would be enough to suffice for a good majority of PvP players, especially if they're going to continue to play Trials in its current iteration after all these years, right? Obviously, I think it was good when they had a period of time where they did Crucible Labs and they were experimenting with different modes. I don't know why we put that on the back burner and basically removed that from the game altogether. I think that was really cool, and I enjoyed trying new things. And even if I didn't play a ton of Crucible during that time, it's just good to see Bungie experimenting with new things and new ideas and new ways to take the IP, like where to take Destiny in terms of its PvP experiences. You know, I feel like that's all just an afterthought now, and we're just sort of living off of the past and off of the successful things that have been around for so long. You know, we are literally playing Trials of Osiris in 2025, which is crazy to think about how long this playlist has been basically the exact same. And you're playing on some of the exact same maps from when the damn playlist launched in like, what, 2015, from like 10 years ago? Think about that. The same playlist, the same maps, 10 years later. That's crazy.
Weapons, you could go crazy with that. And if you're a PvE only player and don't care about PvP, I think this benefits you as well. A robust PvP experience soaks up engagement between PvE updates. If the Crucible is healthy, the game doesn't get stale as quickly. You don't need to crank out the same formulaic seasonal activities over and over again to keep people from logging off. Next, I want to talk about the Eververse store, but not in the way you may assume. This has less to do with Bungie's financial strategies and more with Destiny's identity, because I would argue it has been severely diluted. We've been seeing this in other games, most notably Call of Duty, where relentless crossovers make the game you fell in love with practically unrecognizable. Destiny has been drifting in this same direction for years. The immersiveness of this universe is at an all-time low for me, and this has culminated with Renegades, a full-blown Star Wars-themed expansion. I remember back when Destiny was being shown to the world for the first time around 2013, and Bungie talked about how they wanted one image to evoke a sense of awe and curiosity, to make you ask, what is that? Can I go there? What will I find? To be frank, I don't think the answer to that question should be an AT-AT. Bungie already proved they could translate its inspirations into something distinctly Destiny. Is the Tangled Shore not already a space western setting? Was the spider already not Jabba the Hutt? When Destiny first came out,
I guess, yeah, that's actually a pretty valid point. Also, the 30th anniversary event took inspiration from Halo and Bungie's previous games as well.
distinctly remember looking at others in the tower, inspecting their character, and wondering how they got their loot. Other Guardians used to be like a chronicle, signals of place and triumph and discovery. Now some of the coolest gear in the game can just be bought. It's antithetical to the very reason I want to play this game. And I know you still earn raid loot and whatnot, but that's not the point. In the Taken King era, we had boss-specific loot, items signifying defeating a certain boss from a certain mission. It was earned and fit within the actual Destiny universe. Now we have literal Darth Vader helmet. The relationship between a player's look and the world that produced it has been flattened. Destiny's fiction has become a background to its storefront. Maybe other people like it, maybe other people buy it, but I want gear in Destiny to be earnable. I want to.
So this is where I have maybe a difference of opinion to some degree, which is I actually don't mind the Star Wars collaboration just because I find it to be fun, and the game is just meant to be fun. I do understand where maybe the immersion is ruined to some degree, and that's a more of a subjective or personal opinion. I feel like the immersion thing was ruined well before this, though. If you're really wanting to get onto like the details of this, like we had like a Doki Doki set, we've had some pretty crazy collaborations well before the Star Wars one. I'm not sure why this one is the straw that broke the camel's back, but I can see where maybe after all these years, all these collaborations, there's some pretty crazy armor sets out there. It doesn't really bother me a whole lot, though. I don't think that seeing other Guardians be Darth Vader necessarily ruins my experience, but I could see why he might feel that way, and I know that others do.
To look like it belongs in this universe because I love this universe. I don't want to play Star Wars, I want to play Destiny. I want the tower to tell stories of where players have been, the discoveries they've made, enemies they've faced. The more Destiny looks like itself, the more valuable its world becomes. I'm not fully against cosmetic items or microtransactions, but if I ask a Guardian where they got something, the answer should lead me to an activity, not my credit card information. My final point is likely the one you've been expecting me to talk about from the beginning. Destiny needs a hard reset. It's time. Be it Destiny 3 or some other title, Destiny 2's live service cadence has run its course. I fully expected Destiny 3 to come after the final shape, and was very surprised to learn that that was not the route they were taking. I made a video talking about a potential Destiny 3 on January 31st, 2020. Destiny has and has always had an incredible foundation. Best-in-class gunplay, gorgeous art, wonderful music. But I think when you look at the whole of the Destiny package over the years, the game has been left largely unchanged. Bungie has essentially been iterating on their original systems year after year instead of doing anything truly transformative. Open world design has remained largely the same. There's enemies to shoot, some sort of public event on rotation, lost sectors, planetary materials, those beacons that give you a little objective to complete. I think if we're being really honest with ourselves as Destiny fans, we still have the same 4 enemy factions that we had when the game first came out. The Taken are cool and have some original attacks, but are existing enemies with a different material on them. The Scorn are fallen, reskinned. Even enemy design shares similar mechanics. Can a Screeb not just be described as a fast cursed thrall? And when they threw the Dread into the final shape, which was clearly shoehorned in there at the last second, the first enemy I saw suppressed me. Visually, they are very cool, very cool. But again, a Titan in the Crucible in 2013 could suppress me. It's the same mechanic. Most of the supers fundamentally do the same thing. You either do big damage in one area or do damage roaming around for a bit. With some variation, obviously, but you get the point.
Well, this is kind of a bigger issue of game theory, I believe. I haven't explored this idea too much, but I believe that there's only so much limitation from what you can do in the game to some degree, right? Like you have a physical character that moves around and you can, shoot the gun and then the gun does more damage. Or you can shoot the gun and the gun is more stable, or you can shoot the gun and it has more range or more stability. Like there's only so many different directions that you can take the game to some degree. I mean, I'm not saying that there's no creativity, of course, but I feel like these different status effects, like I'm trying to think of some status effects that Bungie has never done in Destiny 2 or Destiny 1 that they could explore that other games have. I'm sure there are some that I'm missing, but we've definitely covered like a good majority of them, right? Suppressing the enemy, you know, uh, you've got even grapple, this is pretty common all over the place nowadays, right?
What is the difference between suspending a target with Strand or freezing a target with Stasis? Outside of particle effects and the sound it makes, I would argue nothing. Again, I'm not saying all of this just to complain, but I cannot stress this enough. Going back to my previous point, early versions of Destiny sold emotion with a single frame. The mysterious traveler hanging over the city, a rusted gantry in the Cosmodrome, you felt the pull of this world, wanted to explore it, uncover its secrets. Go back and listen to The Path for me right now on Spotify or wherever you can access it. Skip to 4 minutes and 42 seconds and just ask, when was the last time Destiny made me feel like that? Go and just click play on the ecstasy and just listen to the whole thing. Just listen to the entirety of the Music of Spheres now that we can actually do so after all these years. Again, I'm not speaking from a place of nostalgia, wishing things were like they used to be. Destiny back in the day had tons of problems. It was arguably worse than it is now. I'm just pointing out that Destiny was built upon a sense of awe, wonder, and discovery. These days, Destiny is predictable. Every single stone has already been unturned. Kepler and the Edge of Fate is something
Which, if every single stone has been unturned and Destiny is very predictable, this does create a problem when it comes to the development of Destiny 3, right? We've already kind of done this dance to some degree. We went and we had a Destiny 1, and then we launched Destiny 2, but you'll notice that a lot of the same elements from Destiny 1 were just brought into Destiny 2. And then people immediately argue and complain that, there's a lot of recycled content. Notice that Destiny 2, when it launched, it was still Titan Hunter and Warlock. It wasn't like 3 different classes like, Pilgrim, I don't know, Alien, right? It was just Titan Hunter and Warlock, and they still had the same affinities. They still had Solar, Arc, and Void, and they reworked how the subclass systems functioned, obviously. And I personally think they regressed those systems. I think everyone would agree at this point, especially after now they've overhauled them with Arc 3.0, Void 3.0, Solar 3.0, etc. And so now here we are today. We launched Destiny 2. It didn't take a really drastically new creative vision. And so they just had to re-implement a ton of Destiny 1 features back into the game. That was the whole approach with Forsaken. And so I feel like with Destiny 3, you're going to have run the course of another problem, which is, does Destiny 3 launch with Titan, Hunter, and Warlock? This is the problem that I see a lot of people maybe not addressing, which is people like to talk about Destiny 3 as like this concept. And don't get me wrong, I like the concept as well. New things are always more fun than old things. But when you sit down and think about it, is Destiny 3 going to launch with Titan, Hunter, and Warlock? Or is there going to be a 4th class? Or is it not going to be any Titan, Hunter, or Warlock? Does it not exist anywhere in the Destiny lore or canon? Are we going forward in time or backward in time? Are we taking any of the subclasses with us, like Arc, Solar, Void, Stasis, Strand, Prismatic? None of these are going forward with us. And if they don't, then what does that mean for the future of space magic, right? Is it going to be the same thing? Like, where we're just going to have a Nova Bomb, but the Nova Bomb is just orange this time? Are we going to have a golden gun, but the golden gun is Arc now, or, some other affinity? We saw some of these similar elements with Destiny 1 to Destiny 2, where in Destiny 2, they had a perk on your weapon called Kill Clip, which you're all very well aware of. But in Destiny 1, it was wildly different. It was called Reactive Reload. But its functionality was the exact same thing. You shoot an enemy, you reload, and you get a damage perk. So you could change the name from Reactive Reload in Destiny 1 to Kill Clip in Destiny 2. But if its functionality is the same, did you really do anything? Or did you just reskin the same thing, right? And that's what Destiny 3 would be scrutinized so much. Let's be honest, with the current climate of Destiny 2 and the Destiny community, if Bungie launched or hinted at a Destiny 3 and gave us one trailer, the amount of backlash would be insane, because the first thing we would jump to is a ton of recycled content. They've been doing the recycled stuff and using the same IP over and over again, and the same, different abilities and affinities and hand cannons and the different hand cannon models, right? Notice how there'll be a new hand cannon in the game, but people will point to it and be like, that's just the same as the other hand cannon, but it's reskinned, right? This is going to be a big problem. The only way we would get past this, right, is if we did a complete overhaul. I'm talking Destiny 3, no Titans, no Hunters, no Warlocks, 3 completely different characters, all new lore, right? Does space magic come into this? That's going to be a tough one. Obviously, we've really liked space magic, but if you bring it back, then, oh, that's recycled content. We have to decide. There's like this weird line you create where, are we still talking about Destiny anymore if there's no Titan Hunter and Warlock or space magic? Or are we talking about a whole new game and a whole new franchise, you know? So that's the issue, is how much do we carry over? If you carry over anything, people just point to it, say recycled content, lazy, slop, trash, bungo, dead game, etc. And there's really just no winning, right? There's really just no winning in this situation, which is why what we need largely is we need Destiny 2 to be successful first. And upon Destiny 2's success, we can branch out and create other games in the Destiny universe, right? You could create a prequel game or a game that's way in the future or a third-person Destiny. That's like the natural intended route that you're supposed to go. You're not supposed to have a game come out, do well, have these peaks and have these crazy valleys, and then, tank as it is right now. And then in the midst of doing the worst development you've ever done, be like, oh, well, I guess now's time to just, throw a 3 on the box. That'll fix everything. Like, that's a recipe for disaster, right? Destiny 2 needs to be very successful and needs to be doing really well before we should really even be considering these other games or jumping ship. And anyone that says Destiny 3 saves the game, which I mentioned obviously jokingly a lot, but anyone that says that without giving like an exact blueprint of what Destiny 3 would have, I think I don't know how to describe it. It's not being dishonest necessarily. It's just an empty statement is what it is. It's just an empty statement, because when you actually sit down and look at the details of what Destiny 3 would have to be, it's very, very difficult to envision how that could even be possible, right? And it comes back to the main question, which is, well, if there was anything they could do in Destiny 3 that would be so incredible, why not just add it to Destiny 2? Like, let's say Destiny 3 launches with 3 characters or 4 characters that are completely different, right? There's no Titan Hunter and Warlock. What's stopping Bungie from adding those to Destiny 2? You think, well, that could mess with the lore or the story or the sandbox. I mean, they were going to do it for Destiny 3. What do you mean? What do you mean it's going to? You could just add a 4th character. That'd be incredible. Titan, Hunter, Warlock, Pilgrim. That's what I'm talking about. Let me know what you think, Dub.
I've seen 10 times over. Vex roaming around, fallen architecture. I'm tired of shooting captains. I'm tired of them putting a different color helmet on the Cabal and calling it new. And perhaps
or a cowboy hat on them now.
The worst part of this is, I don't even think this is fully Bungie's fault. The model demands a constant flow of content, so brainstorming then crafting something truly new is something they likely don't have time for. Pulling teams off the live service treadmill to build new tech and content that won't be monetizable for years is a risky move. I don't think Marathon can fund Destiny 3, and I'm not optimistic Sony would invest in that project either. But I'll tell you what, I want to fly my ship. I want to explore new planets. I want to be the one to potentially find new planets while I'm flying my ship. And while I'm there, I want to encounter something new and unexpected. What if Destiny exploration was seamless, more like No Man's Sky? What if we can make choices that actually mattered and affected the world with faction territories and shifting borders? What if planets had dynamic weather you needed certain gear to even traverse? I'm not saying all these are genius ideas, but it's something different. And Destiny desperately needs something different. If you like Destiny, you'll like this. Has been this franchise's unspoken marketing line for years, used by myself and many others. And while hearing that is usually good news for Destiny fans, it is equally a safety net and a ceiling. It reassures the faithful while telling everyone else to check back later. That needs to change, now more than ever post Final Shape. The next chapter needs to come, and it cannot simply be more Destiny for those that love Destiny. Destiny needs to stop rotating and start building. Start selling wonder again, and actually deliver upon that promise. If you've made it all the way to the end, thank you so much for watching the video. If you want to share it with a friend or leave a like, it would be greatly appreciated. Feel free to let me know in the comments what your thoughts are of Destiny in the current days.
All right, there it is. That is Timbo, and that is why he quit Destiny. After 3 years, he comes back. He brought up some really valid points, and I always like to hear from the OGs, people that have been around for a long time, just because they can, speak to a different experience where they've seen the highs and the lows, and they've sort of evolved with the game as the game has evolved itself, right? They've evolved their content and their approach to the game, their play style, etc. And the industry itself, the gaming industry, has evolved over all these years. And it's interesting the predicament that Bungie has found themselves in. The last bit that I've been talking about on this that I think is maybe noteworthy, which is that Destiny has such incredible graphic fidelity and gunplay and such a visceral, like fun feeling game that I feel like it comes at a cost, right? Just like when you're build crafting, you can't have, 200 intellect, 200 melee, 200 super, 200 class. You can't have 200 of all stats, right? And it's kind of the same thing, I think, in some ways for video games. So you kind of have to pick and choose where you want your 200 stats. And Bungie, and I think Destiny 2 as a game, chose graphic fidelity as like, all right, first off, we got to have like hyper realism, crazy, in-depth graphics. Like, just look at how incredible the game looks. Everyone always talks about the visuals. Then the gunplay has to be super strong and visceral. And I think once you invest the 200 stat points into graphic fidelity and all of that, it's not that you get zero stats in, content and zero stats in end game, but it's harder to carry that over. It's like a burden of sorts, right? Because now anything you make has to be held to such a high standard. You can't just throw in some hallway that's, in this day and age, you got some fucking AI generated shit, right? It's just not going to work the same. So I think that maybe holds Destiny back in some ways. And that compounded with all of the current existing content needing to be updated as the engine is updated, as the sandbox is updated. We noticed that old things randomly fall behind and like bug in the weirdest, most bizarre ways. Like suddenly lightweight swords that are empty are one-hit killing enemies. And suddenly, with the Vault of Glass, you launch it and it just hard crashes your game, like freezes your game. Like, what is these bugs and these things that happen wouldn't happen if there was obviously much less content in the game, which doesn't mean I'm advocating for sunsetting, but it just shows that, as this ship goes on, it's like we're collecting more passengers, right? We're a ship and we're collecting more and more passengers, this DLC, this DLC, this DLC. And, she can't take much more is where we're at, And that is the reason why I think maybe a Destiny 3 would be interesting, just because if we are truly at our end with where we can grow with this game, then the only option is Destiny 3, right? If we can't continue to maintain a good, ROI, I'm not sure what Bungie's budget is. I'm not speaking to their budget necessarily, but clearly they had a bunch of layoffs. Clearly their budgeting is, not going as well as they would have hoped post Final Shape, You don't lay off a bunch of people if everything is going really well, is typically the understanding. So clearly their budgeting, in my opinion, isn't going well. And so they're going to struggle with these things. And I feel like there's going to be this weird crossroads where there's so much shit in Destiny that has to be maintained, and the amount of employees required to just maintain the game is the exact equivalent for the ROI for its profitability. So you either maintain the game and make no new content, and once we, like, if that is really where we're at, like I'm not saying we're there right now, but we're approaching this level, right? Where like all of the devs seem to be needing to maintain, and focus on this. And there's very little new stuff being made, right? Renegades obviously is going to be a bunch of new stuff. Not saying that there's no new stuff coming in, but I feel like we're seeing a decline in new things, especially when you look back, like go look back at like the Taken King. I think Taken King introduced something like fucking like 20 new exotics or something insane, right? Can you imagine if Edge of Fate introduced 20 new exotics? Just think about that for a minute. Obviously, that's not what happened. And clearly, every expansion every year is going to have to introduce less and less as we have to maintain more passengers on the ship. You know what I'm saying? We got more exotics. We got more things that are floating, more things that are being carried forward. And it just gets harder and harder, which does intrigue the idea of a Destiny 3, because while it is cool to have so much cool shit in one game, new things eventually do outweigh that, right? Eventually you get so fatigued with Destiny that you just stop playing, or you play so little that it's not worth it for you. It's not worth it for Bungie. And then really, I think that does lead them to needing a Destiny 3, but a Destiny 3 out of desperation is not as good as a Destiny 3 out of success and prosperity. And I think that we should really, really try to understand this and understand the difference. Making a Destiny 3 out of desperation is a recipe for disaster. And it's going to burn the company and burn a lot of money. It could be fucking Concord 3. But with a Destiny out of prosperity, it was where we need to get to. We need Destiny to be doing well, and then they branch out and make some other stuff. And maybe those projects do well also. We see this with lots of other games. We were just talking about this with Rockstar. They have GTA. Obviously, GTA 5 is still doing really well, by the way. GTA 5 is absolutely killing it. This is one of the best selling, highest grossing games existing. And they're about to come out with GTA 6, which is also going to be doing insanely well. They've put in like $2 billion into it. And they also have Red Dead Redemption. See how they just have all these like sister IPs that complement each other. So that way, if you want to get involved in the GTA ecosystem and that style of gaming, you can easily bounce around between them. You know, that's kind of the approach that Bungie and Destiny needed to take. I feel like we're maybe a little bit too late in the timeline for this. But then you see the same thing with like Warframe. Warframe's doing really well. They just made this other game called Soulframe. I haven't played much Warframe or Soulframe. All I know is that, you know, they're obviously building off of the success of their main IP, right? And that's the approach to take. And we are not seeing that right now. But so that's why things look really, that's why it's hard not to be very, you know, doom and gloom. You know, you want to be like, oh, no, everything's fine. Destiny's fine. And maybe that's the case. I hope that's the case. But it's hard because the optics, when you're like able to see all these other gaming companies thrive, you're like, all these other gaming companies are thriving and doing so well. And we're over here just like literally flipping the bird at our CEO, Pete Parsons. Like, fuck that guy. He's buying a bunch of exotic cars and we're just fucking, you know, saying it's like the optics are terrible, you know? Like we need to, so many things need to change, man. So many things need to change. But let me know what you think about this situation down in the comment section below.